The new year is upon us, and so it's time to look forward, as always, to more board games. A great year of gaming is ahead. Let's talk all things geek.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph. That's right, it's 2025, baby.
Welcome
That's
to
right.
it. We're in here now.
Hopefully it's been a good year for you.
You
played any games this year?
You played any games yet?
Vanilla.
Because it's the year's
It's
new
the new
still,
year's,
so it's
that's
not that
right,
much
that's right.
time to lapse.
Yeah, super hyped to get into a new year with some BGG stuff, so let's go ahead and get right in the news.
So the BGG Hotness has always kind of been at the center of the site. You come here and see kind of what everyone's clicking on, talking about. We obviously talk about it in this very video every month, but now there are BGG trends. They're kind of expanding on that idea and talking about other things that are really kind of going on. So there's new features you can see right there on the kind of main page. You can see the best-selling games that are going on. You can see kind of play trends, and then also the most played games, which again, we also talk about here. So if you ever want to take a look at on any given day, like what are people playing the most, you can kind of see that in a very similar style to the Hotness videos. I think it's really cool using kind of all this data to see what people have been getting into, what's been capturing people's attention. So make sure you go take a look down the page a little bit and scroll and check out all these cool new trends.
A bit of Board Game Geek news is that the blogs have been updated. They have been updated and kind of reimagined and worked back from the ground up. The BGG crew, all the crew have been working really hard to update the blogs. These blogs are a huge, huge part of BGG. It's kind of like one of the main foundations of BGG is blogs, and they have been reimagining, so now they should be working better. They're more optimized for like PC, but also for like mobile, which is really, really great. You can now put customizable headers to add a little bit of personalization to it, which is really, really cool. They are also looking for, if there's any bugs out there, please to let them know. So if you're checking out a blog, you see something messed up, please let them know, because with anything new, there's gonna be little things like that. But it's super, super cool that they're still really actively trying to work on these parts of the website. That's such a big part, and that's important, you know? And so big shout out to them for that. And so make sure to check out those new blogs. So that was some Board Game Geek news, but y'all know we're here for the hottest games of the month. Let's sit on down and talk about that hotness. Alrighty, it's time for that hotness.
You know
End
it.
of the year hotness. Let's go.
This one is rocketing, and it's definitely fueled by people getting games for the end of the year and stuff like that. So let's hop right into it. All right, number 10 is a game we played 20 minutes ago. It's called Civolution.
That is actually true, yes. We literally just live streamed it.
This is a Stefan Feld game where you are sort of deities making a complex ant farm. You're building and manipulating a civilization of folks trying to bring prosperity and stuff like that. And this is just a giant sandbox of a game where there's really this giant menu of action types you can do. And you are picking and choosing actions based on, you have the combo 2 dice. So a 2 and a 6 would equal the mutation action and things like that. And you are doing this to put people out onto the board, explore around, produce resources, transport them back, play these cards down, bump up tracks.
There's so much stuff to do.
It's so much stuff.
Big old sandbox.
It's a big old sandbox to play. And we actually got to play this for the first time at BGG Con in the fall. And Aldi taught it to us, thankfully, because it's a big teach, and we appreciate you doing that. And we played it, and we personally really dig it.
Really like it. This is like the 5th time we played it since BGG Con, which was in November, so we've played it a lot.
This was highly anticipated from Stefan Feld, because it is a big, complicated, the complexity level on this one is rated pretty high on Board Game Geek. And so it was very much an anticipated game, and it seems like, based on the hotness, people are getting it, playing it, and enjoying it. So that is number 10, Civolution.
Next up is going to be a 2-player game, The Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle-earth, Duel for Middle-earth.
Sure.
You know, there's always Middle-earth.
Sometimes you journey, sometimes you duel, depending on what you're doing.
So this is the reimagining of Seven Wonders Duel, and there is a lot of similarities, kind of more than we thought there was going to be. But now it's based in the Lord of the Rings universe. And you're kind of like the Free Peoples versus like the Shadow Army and stuff like that. You are trying to get the ring. essentially to Mordor. That's one of the ways the free people can win. But then like the Wraiths are like
the Nazgûl
are trying to
tracking down.
So yeah, there's those kind of different ways where now there's not like just a military victory. That is kind of the military victory, but it's a little bit more interesting. I feel
with the military, you're actually putting out pieces onto a map and you're trying to dominate different regions. And if you kind of dominate the whole map, you can win that way. So this is one where in Seven Wonders Duel, there's kind of 3 victories, and here, there's all these different ways to win as well. And it uses the same kind of card pyramid that you draft cards from. And, cards will provide skills and things, which certain other cards will require you to have certain skills. That would be like the resources in Seven Wonders Duel. And it's got great Vincent Dutrait art. This is one that we really look forward to because we're big Lord of the Rings fans, big Seven Wonders Duel fans. And it does a great job of reimagining and reskinning. Well, and also adding a couple of different things from Seven Wonders Duel.
Well, what I think it does is it unabstracts some of the stuff. Like the stuff in Seven Wonders Duel, like the military thing, it's so abstracted, right? It's just a little tug of war on a thing. Now it's like Frodo and Sam and the Nazgûl chasing them. It's like ultimately it's still more or less the same thing. But it's
fun.
like
You have like a little
and now you actually have like a little map where you're putting out military stuff and like it like now instead of science, you have like the various races in Middle Earth and stuff.
Align all the races.
And so it kind of just like gives those kind of really abstracted elements a little bit more body, and then it's in a theme and that we really enjoy too. So I really like it a lot. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's solid.
Sky Team be getting played.
Number 8 be getting
Sky
played.
Team
has had a wonderful journey for itself. This is a great 2-player game.
Sky Team be getting played. We'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah, you'll see. It's a 2-player game where you are a pilot and co-pilot landing a plane, commercial airliner, and you are basically getting everything checked off as you make your ascent into the airport. And so you need to have your flaps deployed, your landing gear down. You gotta manage your speed, get planes out of the way.
Get your
tilt going. And this is one that has done really well for itself.
Yes,
Then it won the Spiele Jahres.
It was already doing fine, to be fair.
Which really kind of helped give it some extra juice. And then they have a small expansion for it as well. And in just that base game, there's so many modules. There's different airports, which will give you different things you need to manage, maybe more, air traffic and things like that. Different kind of, challenges to add on, like a kerosene leak. There's so much to explore. It's so fun. It's a fantastic 2-player game that's ultimately a dice placement where you roll your dice but you're behind a screen and we can't talk about what dice we have, and we're trying to strategically manage these things.
Trying to read each other's minds.
And you really have to be a partnership. You have to, work together to make this thing happen. It's just a really enjoyable one that we really like, and I see it sticking around for a long time.
Yep. Next up is going to be Fromage. Fromage, I find that you had played it a couple times.
I played it a bit on BGA. Then I picked it up in a store.
You picked it up, and I finally got a chance to play it over the holiday season. And Fromage is really good. It's really interesting. This is kind of simultaneous play game where you have a big circle board, which are 4 different kind of like areas of the town. There's like the market. There's like a little festival,
a little bistro, festival,
that kind of stuff. And so basically, whenever one's facing you on that round, you can put cheese out in those different areas. It's all about cheese. And there's like blue cheese. There's like,
hard cheese, soft cheese, and blue
Exactly.
cheese.
And then you're putting your workers out. And it's interesting because when you put your workers out, they fit over the cheese. There's these cool little triangle workers. And then basically at the end of the round, the whole board will rotate. And so now you have a different quadrant in front of you and you can put stuff out, but you don't get workers back until the workers are pointing at you. Because of course it's in a triangle, so they have a little point. And then at one point, they will be looking at you, and then you get to take them back. And so on these spots, there's like bronze, silver, and gold spots.
Yeah, and that represents how aged the cheese is.
And how beneficial it's gonna be. You're gonna get more points for that. But if you put it on a gold spot, that's a level 3 cheese. And so that worker's not gonna come back for 3 rotations. So there's this really economy of like, using your workers, but also making sure you can get them back. That is really interesting.
Yeah, in each region, it's definitely better to be putting stuff onto the gold spaces, the age 3 cheeses. But, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to have blue cheese available because each worker is tied to one of the types of cheeses. So you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. And each region has, kind of a different focus.
It's a little mini game almost.
Kind of, yeah. And one of them, you know, there's these, it's at a restaurant, you're basically putting cheese on these plates, and the plates are each worth certain values, but if you put 2 cheeses on a table, so you have both of the spots taken, you get to like upgrade the value of all of your cheeses in that region. Another one, you're trying to build a big contiguous line of your pieces and stuff like that. So like, it might be really important that I get the hard cheese back at this time, because as we play, spots get taken up and each space can hold 1 cheese, so your options get a little limited. You can build structures in this game that will give you potentially worker placement spots only you can use, bonuses and endgame scoring and stuff.
There's a lot going on,
there's a lot of fun things, and just the whole unique, like, the way of the rotating the board, the kind of gimmick of that, but then having a quadrant that's all you're doing so you can play this worker placement game simultaneously is really neat. I think it does some like cool stuff and just puts that little twist on it that makes it really interesting, and especially the timing of those workers.
Yeah, it's really cool. This is a game that probably got played a lot over the holiday season because people finally had time for it. And this is going to be Slay the Spire the Bird game.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of people talking about their plays recently of this one.
Love Slay the Spire. It's so good.
This is the very popular video game ported into a board game, making it multiplayer. Yeah, multiplayer co-op.
Ready to lose a couple hundred more hours, Mikey?
Yeah, dude, I'm ready. My body's ready.
My body is ready.
So the board game does a fantastic job of taking something super familiar. If you've played and enjoy Slay the Spire like we have, we know the cards, we know the characters and stuff, and so that can be kind of a challenge because you have to keep the heart of that present.
Yeah, but you also make it kind of different. You know,
but it also works out that Slay the Spire is basically a board game already because it's like a deck building game, so it's nice. And this game does a great job of making the cards and the flavors of the characters absolutely work. So it's very familiar in that sense, but then it provides a unique experience because Slay the Spire is a solo, you know, video game adventure. Now you can play it with up to 4 people, all 4 of the characters simultaneously, and you can even work together to kind of combo each other's cards across players, which is very unique to the video game, something the video game cannot do because there's not set turn structure. So if Nick plays a card that's gonna make this bad guy vulnerable, I can then come play with big attack card and make use of the vulnerable that you produced. And that is super cool.
Super fun,
It feels very cooperative. We're obviously talking about this because we are personally big fans of this game.
We are.
I think they did such a good job.
I think they did too,
And we love Slay the Spire. So it's that thing where you're like, the expectations are high. They crushed it. They absolutely crushed it to me. So, we're fans. We're fans.
We like it okay.
We'll hush now.
Next one's going to be Harmonies.
Yes. Fantastic game.
Harmonies is great. It's probably more people's hands now and stuff like that. It's just... Oh man, Harmonies is great. This is getting kind of Cascadia-ish where you're going to be having various animals, and these animals are going to have certain things you need to do to fulfill them and stuff like that. They want like certain mountains or fields or whatever and stuff like that.
The tokens you're placing in that central board, you need to arrange them in a specific kind of diagram to complete these animal cards.
Exactly.
And they're all kind of different. But then the thing that we really like about this game is that those tokens, the mountains, the trees and stuff, all also have a natural way of scoring that exists outside of the animal cards. So your mountains, you want to have at least 2 together because you're making like a little mountain range, and then the taller the better. You can actually stack those pieces together. Trees, you want to be tall. Cities, you want to be surrounded by different stuff. And that, I think, is the real fun, is that like you have these animal cards, but then you also have the kind of natural way of scoring, and you're kind of trying to find harmony between those 2.
Well, especially because a lot of times the cards and the natural ways of scoring are contradicting. They're not like, an animal might be like, you want to have 3 level 1 mountain ranges or whatever. You're like, well, that's not like great because it's like, or they want you to put it in a way that's not going to score it well for its natural scoring. And so it's this weird, again, you're trying to find that harmony between the 2, and it's really, really pretty. It's got great pieces. It's just one of those games that's just like fun to play, relaxing. It's not like super stressful. It's a great kind of like evening game. And there's just something about it that's just very, very appealing. And I think a lot of other people feel the same way because it's just getting played like crazy. I mean, it sold out when it first came out.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty much disappearing.
Every time they print it, they're like, it's just gone. So shout out to them for making such a very popular game because it's outstanding.
Number 4 is Arcs. This has been dominating the hotness.
I think since it got delivered to people, it's been
the entire back half of the year. Really. This has been on people's minds and stuff. This is from Leader Games, who make like Root. And this is a big space battler where you're trying to just dominate the board, really. You're really trying to get your pieces and your buildings and your ships out there and kind of crush everybody else. And you're kind of doing this through trick-taking like...
Kind of, not really, but yeah.
Actions. And when we say that, it's because it is ultimately card play driven, where you're gonna play a card and that's gonna dictate the action or actions you can do. And there's this kind of like lead suit, the lead action type. And if you play that and you're the first player, you get to take more action points essentially of whatever action you choose. And then the other players can then choose to play a card that matches that suit and that action type, and they can, you know, take those actions, or you can basically go off suit, pivot and basically get like one action point, but of a different action type. So maybe I really need a build right now or something. So I'm actually gonna go against the trend, maybe have a less efficient turn, but a more useful one because it's actually something I can make use of, this action type. So it's kind of a fun, interesting thing at the center of this kind of big, in-your-face, aggressive, you know, space battle game.
Yeah, and it's one of those games where being first really matters because you're the one getting to dictate what's happening. Yeah, it's a very popular game, as pretty much every leader game is, and it's just crushing. People are loving it, loving it, loving it. It's a lot of people's favorite game of the year. They just knocked it out of the park yet again, as they seem to always do, and they're just absolutely firing all cylinders, have been for a while. And yeah, shouts out to Arcs. Speaking of Arcs, next one's gonna be Arc Nova. The big 3D version just got announced. So
I know, the big box, new content, storage solution, 3D stuff.
Yeah, who knows? This game has been so popular. It's
probably gonna be awesome. Yeah,
so it's probably gonna be great.
It's gonna be back in the hotness again, as it always is.
It never left, to be fair. It's been, I don't know, I'd have to go look, but like since Arc Nova came out,
if we were to take
what's the percentage of how many hotness lists it showed up in? I don't think it's
maybe
100%.
Dipped out for like a couple. I mean, a handful. Anyway, so Arc Nova is a big game where you are running competing zoos, and you are trying to focus on, you know, building up the appeal of your zoo with whatever, you know, animals you have in enclosures, and also focus on conservation effort in order to be the first one to cross your two tracks, your kind of appeal track and your conservation. So you can kind of decide which area you focus on or create a balanced approach. And it's something that we, and a lot of people obviously have really enjoyed. It's just a cool theme for a game. The action selection system with these cards and kind of waiting and cycling your actions so you have as strong of actions as possible. I want to wait till my build actions at the 5 slot so I get, you know, the strongest possible action type is just really kind of fun. There's just a lot of cool card play. Lots of stuff. You've obviously heard us talk about it many times. And,
once or twice.
With this new big box edition,
it's sticking around, y'all.
It's not going anywhere.
I love it. Number 2 is gonna be SETI. This was our personal favorite game of the year.
Personal best,
Love SETI. SETI is so good. This is a game by CGE where SETI stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It's a real thing. That exists. A bunch of big satellites, and there's like wow.
Just putting vibes out there.
Putting vibes, you know, just rickrolling all the aliens, you know.
Why not?
It's nonstop.
Enraging them.
So, so SETI is great. We really enjoy it. This is a game, again, where you're kind of looking for these alien species. You will eventually find them.
Sure.
Because you will always find 2 in the game. And you have a bunch of different actions you can do. You can, you're on Earth, obviously. So you can put out probes or put out satellites and stuff like that. So they're kind of in the space. You can have them land onto various places in the solar system, or you can just have them orbit places like Jupiter, things like that. But as you're doing all these things, you're getting these kind of alien artifacts almost, or just DNA
traces
evidence.
Of life.
Yeah. And then eventually, once you find one of each color, you will unlock one of these alien species. And there's 5 in the game, but there's only 2 per game. And you don't know which ones they are. You just put them down face down.
Yeah.
So it's fun because every game, even if you've played all the aliens, you never know which ones are going to be in the game, which is really nice. But one thing I love about this game is that the game is pretty, got a lot of depth to it, a ton of strategy, tons of stuff you can do, but each individual action in the game is really simple.
They have a really fantastic player aid, so it always shows you, it's oh, I want to launch a probe. It's okay, well, it costs 2 credits and you put it on Earth. That's your whole action.
There you're done.
I can spend energy to move it around. It breaks down into very small, digestible pieces, but then those pieces stack up into quite a large game.
Yeah.
And that's something that for us personally enjoying games, something that will just set that game aside from the others and put it into the next level, and why SETI was our personal favorite from the year, is something where it's like, okay, I know how I can do all the things. I know all the things and how they work. What should I do and what combination should I put them in? There's a whole lot to think about there. And I can use all my brain power on that because I'm not trying to remember a ton of tiny rules. And again, the player aid on the back, this little booklet, on the back, it shows all the actions and the cost and everything. And so all of your information is actually put onto a very small cheat sheet.
It's a pretty easy teach. It's just like, it's one of those games that just isn't really that complex, but just comes together in a very cool way. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I got that pipeline in the Brandon Sanderson.
Bro, they do. This one's the Brandon Sanderson are like this.
Yeah, they love each other, man. This is Mistborn, the deck building game, was all just parked at #1 for like 3 weeks. Because anything Brandon Sanderson is going to be very, very popular.
You know, someday that guy's going to make it big. Someday he's going to really
he's going to do okay, I tell you.
Yes.
So this is a deck building game by John D. Clare. So it's John D. Clare and it's Brandon Sanderson and Brotherwise. I'm like, okay.
The most awesome match of various things coming together, man.
Yeah, so this is a deck building game set in the Mistborn universe, which is one of the earlier trilogies from Brandon Sanderson, which has got this really cool, got one of the coolest magic systems.
It's very neat.
Where these allomancers, it's all about metals. They can basically ingest metals and then burn them, and then it gives them these kind of special powers. And it's just like pewter makes people really strong, all this kind of cool stuff. So this is based into that world, and it's really cool because it's a deck building game where you'll play these cards, but then you have to like burn metals to like activate these cards.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's freaking cool.
It's a really cool way to do it. You can play cooperatively or solo or against each other, and the different types of metals, as you mentioned in the books, have like different properties. And so the depending on the types of cards you buy and the metals you produce and stuff like that, you might go for like, I'm gonna try to knock you out, I'm gonna try to complete these missions or do these different things. And I just think it's a really,
it seems really cool.
We're fans of the magic system.
I love Mistborn,
and Mistborn, and so it just seems to make sense. And the thing I'm curious about, because we have not played this game, is like the resource management part. Like, do you discard cards just for the metal, or like how I'm not sure. How does the metal burning come into it? But it's going to be super neat. Again,
a little forge.
Brandon Sanderson is very well known. Brotherwise has been making awesome content with teaming up with Brandon Sanderson, and then John D. Clare, one of our best designers, coming in to just take it over the top.
Yeah.
So it makes sense it's number 1. I'm sure it's going to do very well for itself, and we're personally very excited to try that one as well.
Very, very excited. So that is the hotness. There's a ton of hotness. So we always talk about the most played games of the month.
Sure do.
As Mikey talked about earlier, the trends, now there is the most played game of the month. We'll always talk about it here because we want to talk about the numbers specifically. So number 10 is going to be Wingspan, which had 7,761 plays.
Yep.
Then Forest Shuffle, which had 7,783 plays.
Play that again.
Bomb Busters had 7,976.
So there's a couple things you're going to see on here that are the Christmas effect.
Yes.
You know, by that I mean the holidays.
People probably played a bunch of missions, right?
You can play a bunch of missions back to back in Bomb Busters. It's great for the family and stuff. It makes sense that kind of game would show up around the holidays in a big bad way because it's a great family game.
Yeah. There's also the December effect, and this one is Exit the Game, the Advent Calendar.
Yeah, dude.
The Missing Hollywood Star. Cosmos does these Advent calendars.
Nikki and Lincoln are 24 of those plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they did it right here on Board Game
They're always doing the previous
Geek.
year.
Yeah, so you can watch that, by the way.
Yeah.
If you care to see how these things play, Nikki and Lincoln, I think Deborah this year, they always played the year before, so not spoiling the current year's Advent calendar, and they're really, really fun.
Yeah, but
anyway,
tons of people do it. There's 8,411 people logged those ones.
That's awesome, man.
It's a really successful thing they did, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Then we have Azul, which has 9,272. Trio, which is getting more and more plays, 10,384. Far Away, which has 11,526. You can see also how many more plays there are in December.
Yeah.
Because people have time off.
We don't have time.
Arc Nova, which has 12,700. Harmonies jumped up to number 2.
Whoa.
With 13,041. And number 1 is Sky Team. Probably a lot of people got it for the Spiele, right? 14,000 430.
Wow, the amount of plays this month are off the charts.
Usually there's only like 1 or 2 over 10,000. There were 4 this time.
Wow, so make sure you log your plays if you don't. It's really fun. There's BG stats and other ways to do it. You can tie those to your Board Game Geek account, and so it'll track it over on both, or you can track it right here on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's a great way to look back and remember what you played and kind of jog your memory, something that we personally use as well. But wow, that is a strong month of gaming.
Real strong month. So that's the hottest games, most played games. Let's go into some Murph picks. My Murph pick is going to be an artist diary by Stefan, who did the art for Castle Combo. We talked about like art, we talked about the designer diaries a lot, and I think I mentioned it last time there was an artist diary. It was probably my Murph pick, to be fair. I really, really love these artist diaries. I really like the designer diaries, but I do art on my own, and so like I find the artistic process fascinating. And you can really see with these artistic diaries, and particularly this one for Castle Combo, Stefan would really in depth to like their process and what they were thinking about, because Castle Combo has this really beautiful art, but it's very cartoony. And so I feel like there is this kind of, I don't want to say prejudice necessarily, but there's kind of this thought, if it's like, oh, if it's cartoony, that means there's less thought that goes into it than maybe some other kind of art. And you can see from this artist diary that there is not. There were so many considerations and so many inspirations, and taking inspirations from fine art and from characters from history, and then so many iterations of them going back and forth with the designer and the publisher, finding out where to get to. And then the art in Castle Combo is amazing, but it's just this simple little card game, but it goes to show just how important artists are and how important their work is and how much it elevates a game, because the art in Castle Combo is incredible, and you would never know that much thought and that much consideration went into it. So I love these artist diaries because I love to see that kind of like behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain, talking about the art, talking about the inspiration, where these things came from, the different iterations. I just think it's so cool. I think the biggest kind of change in board games in the last 10, 15 years has been the artistic side of it. And I want to see that being pushed farther and farther and farther. I think these artist diaries are a great way to give us, the kind of normies, insight into what's happening behind the scenes. I think it's incredible. Please make sure to check it out.
So my Murph pick is something that is near and dear to my heart. It's all about teaching a game, and this post is by Tyler Heasey. I'm gonna have it here so I can use their notes. It's a blog post to teach how to organize your thoughts for teaching a board game effectively, because that can be really important. Figuring out like what objectives are in the game and how to kind of parse all that information into digestible bits and chunks, and to kind of create a linear, explanation for, your friends and family can be really important. So they break it down really quickly like this. They have kind of a 5 or 6 step process. So they say 0, you want to take some brief notes and get yourself kind of prepared before you do the teach. That's step 0. The first thing you want to do is provide context. Where in the world are we? What are we kind of doing? What's the setting for this? State the object of the game. What are we trying to do? We're trying to have the most money, the most points, or whatever. Then describe how the game ends. So, okay, we're gonna have this much time, 6 rounds, or this end trigger. So you kind of get an idea of like the scope and time of the game. And then explain a turn. Get into the nuts and bolts of like what you're gonna be doing on your turn, what you're gonna be doing to activate, and kind of getting into all of those moving parts. And then the thing they kind of leave is saying, get into the play, and then if there's certain things that you can kind of explain later as they come up, kind of let those things play out and then show up, and then add that explanation when it's appropriate, versus putting every bit of information into that initial brain dump, which can be overwhelming for people. I just really like the way they organize their thoughts around teaching, because I think it's a skill, like a legitimate skill. So it's just something that I really appreciate, and I agree with everything they said.
All right, so those are some Murph picks. At the end of the video, we always talk about our personal favorite game, the mother, at least a memorable experience from the month. So what was your favorite game of the month?
I finally got to try the Guild of Merchant Explorers.
Yeah, you're really into it.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. It's almost like a roll and write, where you're gonna be getting these cards. We're all working on the same, each have our own board, but it's the same map. So the same landmarks and things. You're gonna be flipping over these cards. They're gonna allow you to put cubes out on a certain land types, potentially in like a certain direction and things like that. And you're trying to get to different areas, cover a whole area of desert or something like that to put out your villages, and kind of explore around on this map. And it's just really, really fun. You get basically the same action cards, but the way we all explore will be different probably. And then you also get some individual action cards that like are different from each other. And I found that to be really, really cool. They're like, oh, I have this unique thing I can do once per round that you don't get to do.
Yeah.
And it was just really kind of awesome and fun. And this is one that we heard people talk up a lot. And you know, it's been a year and a half or so since it came out and I hadn't played it. And so it's nice when a game like that has been talked about so long and then it just still meets and maybe even exceeds your expectations. So I had a blast playing it. Yep.
Movie this month is gonna be No Thanks, a classic game. It's of those kind of like small filler games you can kind of play with anyone. It's just a great one. We're at a birthday celebration for me.
This guy.
Get wrecked. And so we were playing a bunch of little small games, like Fuji Flush, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. We also played some No Thanks, because again, we were playing with a whole bunch of people. It's like, oh, we can just teach this game real quick. It's just great. This is an anti-bidding game where there'll be a card that's flipped out. You don't want cards because the number on the card is how many points you get. You don't want points. So you have these no thanks chips. So when it comes around to you to bid on it, you can be like, nope, no thanks. And you're bidding to not take the card. Eventually someone will have to take it. Also, one, because if you ever run out of chips, you then can't say no thanks, you have to take the card. But whoever decides to take the card, you also get all the chips on the card, which means now you have bidding power. Plus, at the end of the game, every chip you have is -1 point. So it lowers your score, which is good.
Right.
So it's this constant battle of like, that's a 20. That's a lot of points, but there's like 8 chips on it. And you're like, is that worth it?
Not so bad if there's 8 chips on it.
It's just so good. And then also if you can get sequential numbers. So if I get 20, but then I also get 19, I can put the 19 on top of the 20 and only the top card matters.
Yeah.
So if you can get a sequence of cards and some of the cards are taken out at the beginning of the game, so it's not always guaranteed that all the cards will be there. So you're also playing loose with that. You're like, because sometimes, you know, I have a 30 and the 29 comes up, no one wants it, but I'm like, put the chips out because I'm gonna take that one. And it's just such a good game. I love No Thanks. And it was so good to break it out again because it'd been probably like a year or so since I played it. I was like, God, No Thanks is great.
It's a good time.
It's so fun.
So simple and great. So those are our favorite games of the month. Let us know what you've been playing recently.
Down in the
if you played
comments.
anything over the holidays, get those in the comments below and we will see y'all next month.